G'day, guys. Welcome back to Steelers Nation Australia. That's right. 2 videos in one day. Here's why. I think Antonio Brown has lost his mind. I've been a big fan of Antonio Brown, for a very long time, but over the last few years, I'm convinced that something's going on and he's lost his marbles. Now, this is this is not one of the worst things he's done, but one of the craziest things I think he's done, let alone on the internet, right? Pro Football Hall of Fame put this out. The first name that comes to mind when you see the Steelers logo is, you can name a million players, and I will try to in the next few moments, right? AB has done a lot of bad things. Every second day, I feel like AB's in the news where he's getting reports about being under arrest or detained or fighting in court or fighting against his, there's a lot of trouble going on with AB, right? A lot of trouble with his new empire, the Albany Empire, the indoor football league. There's so much going on. We know that like AB is something's missing. He's losing his marbles, right? But I saw this thing. I saw. This is actually Antonio Brown tweeting back or retweeting the Pro Football Hall of Fame saying, I don't know what the clock means, but he has a B there. So the first name that comes to mind when you see this Steelers logo is, and Antonio Brown puts a picture of a clock and Bumblebee in reference to the killer bees. You know what I'm saying? Like this is just crazy. This, like I said before, it's not the worst thing that has happened with Antonio Brown, with the arrest stuff and some of the viral videos that were quite disgusting when he was in the pool and all those things. You guys know, if you've been following the Antonio Brown story, you know, and you almost can't miss it at the same time that it's like that counter, 0 days without Antonio Brown doing something stupid. Well, that counter just went back to 0, right? This is not the first thing that I think of being a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. The first name that comes to mind when you see the Steelers logo is Antonio Brown. Now, I have Antonio Brown's jersey. I still have this. I've got Brown. I went and saw him Christmas Day, versus the Ravens. The Immaculate Extension was one of the best games probably in Pittsburgh Steelers history, and one of the games that I love the most because I was there. I was there for an extra half an hour. My first time going to Pittsburgh, second time going to Pittsburgh, but first time being in the stadium, enjoying it. And it was an amazing day to see the black and gold in color rush and Antonio Brown winning the game, winning the division. But the separation now of Antonio Brown is not the first player that I think of when I think of Pittsburgh Steelers. If I think crazy, I think Antonio Brown. If I think selfish, I think Antonio Brown. If I think some guy who's lost his marbles, I think Antonio Brown. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I do not think Antonio Brown. So I just found this funny, man. I was like, what's he doing? What's his overall goal? Because the other day he posted this of one of the crazy things that he gets up to. Antonio Brown posted himself in a Ravens jersey, right? His number. It's just like, I don't know anymore with this character. I really don't. He's so far removed from football now. It's just he's in a world of his own. He's in his own little AB land. Excited to return to the NFL this year, Ravens flock. And then today he retweets out, Antonio, what's the first name comes to mind? Right? I can think of many names. I can think of the names when I started back watching in 2002, 2003. My first quarterback that I started watching was Tommy Maddox. I started playing the game with Madden. I still remember watching Dan Crowder when I was, watching in 2004. He was the fullback. Amos Siraway was some of the first players that I saw on this Pittsburgh Steelers team. One of my favorite players was James Ferrier. He represents the black and gold more than Antonio Brown ever will. You even go back to the real back in the day in the 70s, Mean Joe Green, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, those dudes. I'm not really connected with them because it wasn't my era. My era growing up was Troy, James Debo Harrison, Lamar Woodley, Lawrence Timmons, Big Ben, Willie Parker, Jerome, the Boss, Heath Miller. You could name 1,000. You could name 1,000 players that represent the black and gold more than Antonio Brown. I know it's a bit off the cuff subject. I don't normally talk about Antonio Brown, but I think he's lost his marbles. Like something tells me this is not the first and last post we see of Antonio Brown. He's got so much trouble every second, third day. He's in trouble with the law. There's things coming up. Apparently, he wasn't even He wasn't paying his players the other day. Wasn't paying them money. He locked them out of the hotel. Right. He changed his name to Antonio Ella or something like that. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below, guys, if you know what you think about the Antonio Brown situation. Do you care? But if you do want to let me know something in the comments, let me know this. Let me know this at least. What's the first name that comes to mind? What is the first name as a fan that comes to mind when you see the Steelers logo? The first name that comes to my mind when I see the Steelers logo is probably Big Ben, right? Big Ben. I think of Jerome Bettis the bus. I think of Heath Miller. I think of, like I said, James Ferrier, and my favorite player, James Debo Harrison. I think of all those guys in that era. I don't think of Antonio Brown that's gone crazy off the wire, off the hook, ever since he walked off the field with the Buccaneers and run off the field with his t-shirt waving around in the air. I don't know. I think he's wild. I think Antonio Brown just needs to calm down and get some. He's surrounded by too many yes men. Antonio Brown is surrounded by too many yes men. Put that S on, put that S on. It's just there's just too much around him. And when I saw this, I was like, what are you doing, Antonio Brown? Nobody thinks of you as the first name connected to the Steelers. And one last thought. I've heard this thing about, will they make him an honorary Steel Hall of Honor member? I might be wrong in this, but it's my opinion. I hope they never do. I hope Antonio Brown never comes back to the black and gold, and I hope that he's never allowed to be connected with the Hall of Honor. I feel like true Steelers should be the only ones who can be connected with the Hall of Honor, right? That in Heinz Field, those kind of guys, true Steelers should be connected to that Steeler history and lore. Yes, Antonio Brown and AB was one of the best players. With the Steelers, like stats don't lie. He was one of the greatest players to play for the organization. But right now, all the off-field stuff, I never want to see him be connected again. Maybe that's why I took so much personal, maybe heat to the situation that he does do this, because I don't want to see AB connected to the Steelers ever again. I don't want to see him in the Hall of Honor that's next to Hines Ward, or that's next to Mean Joe Green, or next to Jerome Bettis. I just don't want to see that, because all the off-field antics are too much, and he's far beyond gone what is a normal, civilized person. He's off his rocker, basically, right? So let me know in the comments below, guys, what you think. And if you want to, put down, when you see the Steelers logo, what does it remind you of? For me, it doesn't remind me of AB. It reminds me of true Steelers like Troy, like Debo, like Big Ben. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see you later on.